We all want a sense of belonging. Perhaps you went through some turmoil that turned your life into a revolving door of pain. You want answers, but you don't know where to look for them. But then all of a sudden, a complete stranger comes up to you and consoles you. The stranger tells you that they know what you're going through, and they know a solution. Little do you know, this solution would cost you. Today, we're going to be talking about the minds of cult leaders. Religious figures have been around for a very long time. These people have manipulated the minds of the vulnerable to join their cause, only to be misled into thinking they're going to departure on some next level journey. Please join me as we count down and dwell into the minds of cult leaders. The Heaven's Gate cult was formed in 1974 and was led by Marshall Applewhite. Alongside his wife, they would orchestrate one of America's most heinous mass suicides in history. There's no doubt about it that Marshall Applewhite was a disturbed man. He completely brainwashed his followers into thinking that they needed to leave their vehicles, or their bodies, and transform into this next level being or alien, go inside a UFO, and ascend into heaven. One day, a phone call to the police was made about the whereabouts of Marshall and his followers, as they were not sighted at their mansion. Neighbors would often see them outside on the front yard or hear them from within the mansion. Officers would arrive and step inside the seemingly empty mansion. There was only one room that was not empty, and what officers would find in there would shock them to the core. A total of 39 bodies, including Applewhite and his wife, were seen laying on beds, covered in purple sheets, lying perfectly still with their hands at their side. Applewhite and his wife orchestrated all the members, including themselves, to eat pudding or applesauce laced with poison. Before any of this would take place, members would record videos explaining why they were going to take their own lives. The tapes can show the members being happy and joyful, even grateful that their lives are coming to an end, and ultimately giving thanks to their leader, Marshall Applewhite. Applewhite has said on tape that everything that they have been doing has been a part of their own free will, but it doesn't take a psychologist to see that all these people have been brainwashed. Family members of the deceased wish they could understand why their loved ones would choose to follow such a man. Survivor of the Heaven's Gate cult Jenna Gabbins recalled the strict rules that they had to obey. Being only 16 years old at the time, she was told to sleep and wake up at a certain time. Showers would only be 6 minutes long. There was even a rule where she was not supposed to talk at all. Jenna goes on to say that the no talking rule ended up lasting 4 years long, and it was in those 4 years where a switch flipped in her head and decided to leave. Unfortunately for the rest, they just couldn't see through Marshall's deception.
Andrew McCarthy is interested in more than just a good... Listen, he's having no trouble...
Could you say it again?
Your only chance to survive or evacuate is to leave with us.
Shoko Asahara, born March 2nd, 1955, in Yatsushiro, Kumamoto, Japan. Shoko lived quite the normal life before becoming a cult leader. He was born being blind in one eye, so he had to go to a school for impaired people. After graduating in 1975, he failed to gain admission into medical school, so he went on to study acupuncture and pharmaceutical studies. He would go on to open his own pharmacy in the city of Chiba, specializing in Chinese medicine. However, in 1982, he was arrested for selling fake remedies, and after his conviction for fraud, his business went bankrupt. During a period of spiritual crisis, Asahara joined a new religion called Aganshu, a religion that was a mixture of Hindu and Buddhism. After a while, he would come up with his own religion. He would call it Shinsen no Kai. The name would later on change to Aum, or AUM, Shinriku. By 1989, the Tokyo Metropolitan Government granted Shoko's religion a verified organization. As a result of this, Shoko gained a big ego and started giving himself many names, like Pope, Savior of the Country, and Tokyo Christ. Shoko would garner around 9,000 members in Japan. He would go on preaching about predictions of disasters that would foreshadow the end of the world. Meanwhile, under his direction, AUM members were gathering firearms, manufacturing bioweapons, and collecting sarin nerve gas. In 1995, 5 AUM members released the gas in Tokyo subway systems. This attack would go on to kill 13 people and injure 5,500. Asahara and his members were quickly arrested and the organization shut down. Asahara was convicted of murder and was sentenced to death in 2004. He submitted many appeals, but time and time again they would be exhausted. He would be executed by hanging on July 6, 2018. Jim Jones, born May 13, 1931, in Creek, Indiana, United States. Jim was a preacher who led the cult, the People's Temple. It would later be known as Jonestown, but we'll get to that soon. Jim Jones acquired a massive following of over 900 plus people, which ranged from adults, teenagers, and children. Every single one of his followers praised him as if he was some sort of messiah character. But nobody knew Jim's true intentions. Behind everything, he was conducting a trap for every single one of his members. Jim had been collecting shipments of cyanide in 1976. But you see, to legally purchase cyanide, Jim needed to have a jeweler's license, as we know that jewelers use cyanide to clean their product. And in case you didn't know, cyanide is one of the most rapidly active poisons ever. In 1978, Jones convinced all his members to move away with him to the forests of Guyana, and that piece of land that Jim would own would be called Jonestown. Jim knew he wanted to end his little charade with a bang, so he held up rehearsals to make sure everything was right. He would get on a megaphone and tell his followers that people are coming to get them. To prevent anyone from leaving, Jones had armed guards surrounding the entire area. He would then bring out flavored drinks for everyone to consume, but because this was a practice run, there was no cyanide in them. After drinks were consumed, he went back to his megaphone and spoke to his followers and said, "Now I know I could trust you. Go home, my darlings, and sleep tight." It's been said by survivors that Jim would constantly use drugs, despite the fact him telling his followers that they are banned from using drugs. Sometime later, Congressman Leo Ryan would come to Jonestown along with some reporters to interview the people. What they saw over there in Jonestown was pretty much normal people and behaved like normal people. But one member of the cult passed a note to reporter Don Harris, who was with Leo. The note had said, "Help us get out of Jonestown." It was now clear to them that there was more than just one person who wanted to leave. So little by little, Congressman Leo Ryan and others took people on planes and take them back to the States. Unfortunately, this caught the attention of Jim Jones, and he ordered his armed guards to take fire on leaving planes. During the shootout, around 10 people would escape Jonestown. The rest, however, wouldn't be so lucky. November 18th, 1978 would be the fateful day where 900 plus people would perish by drinking cyanide-laced beverages, making it one of the worst mass suicides in U.S. history.
The inside.
Foreclose that Tristan lost.
People play games, friend. They lie. What can I do about lies? Are you people going to leave us? I just beg you, please leave us. Bill, we will bother nobody. Anybody wants to get out of here can get out of here. We have no problem about getting out of here. They come and go all the time. I don't know what kind of game. People like publicity. Some people do. I don't.
Warren Jeffs, born December 3rd, 1955, in Sacramento, California, United States. Warren Jeffs was the leader of the Fundamentalist Church of Jesus Christ for Latter-day Saints, or FLDS. It was said in this organization that if you do not have one or more husband or wives, you will not achieve salvation. Rulon Jeffs, father of Warren Jeffs, was said to be the prophet of this organization. And it was said that Rulon Jeffs had approximately 89 wives, some old enough, some not. When Rulon died, it was then passed down to Warren Jeffs to take control of the cult. He was known to be very influential, and all the kids looked up to him. But this would only be the beginning of Warren Jeffs' sick, immoral, and outright disgusting leadership. The cult had very strict rules and didn't allow anybody to leave. The women all wore very long dresses, absolutely no skin were supposed to be shown, and their hair needed to be styled in a certain way. They even had a step-by-step handbook. Warren Jeffs gave the women two purposes to fulfill: to be completely submissive and to procreate. Unfortunately, most marriages that would take place would be underage girls marrying men who were well into their 40s. Even more sad, those children's innocence were taken from them behind closed doors. Warren himself apparently had 74 wives, most of them being underage. Survivors of the cult would give insight on what would happen if the rules were broken. In the Netflix documentary Keep Sweet, Pray and Obey, if rules were broken, Warren Jeff would kick out that individual with not even $1 to their name or anything left in their bedrooms, just leaving them to navigate the open world that they were taught nothing about. Sometime later, Warren Jeffs would get the attention of the FBI. On a morning on April 2008, authorities would come to the cult compound and start taking away children and young women, as there had been reports about children being inside trailers being transported. However, Child Protective Services had no choice but to relinquish those kids and young women due to insufficient evidence. But the cult also had another compound located in East Texas. It was a rather very large church, but I assure you, no worship was taking place here. It was at this compound where Warren had many rooms in which he would be alone with underage girls, indulging in absolutely disgusting activities, which he also had audio recordings of. Finally, in 2011, Warren Jeffs was convicted of several sex crimes, including 2 sexual assaults on minors. He was sentenced to life in prison and won't be eligible for parole until 2038. Thank you for watching, everybody. If you enjoy it when I upload creepy content like this, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe. Hit the bell too to be notified every time I upload. And I'll catch you in the next one. Have a good one.